The grand claret of a pure shimmer like a frozen star, its gold casting long shadow over the marble floor of the Kim mansion. You stood silently in the middle of it, all dressed in bridal gown that didn't feel like yours. The veil was too heavy, the diamond necklace too tight. The man standing beside you, eyes head to toe. Billionaire CEO, fear and worshipped in equal measure, and now your husband. Smiled, he murmured under his breath, not even glare at you. You wouldn't want your father to look guilty in the picture. You forced a tight smile as camera clicked, guests clapped, and somewhere behind all the noise your heart shattered. Flashback 2 weeks ago, your father's company had been on the verge of collapse, threatened with a lawsuit from Kim Empire as a shady merger deal. Then came the news. They would drop the charge on one condition: he wanted to marry you. No one knew why, no one except him and your father, who looked away every time you asked what's really happened to his business. You agree you had to. For your family, for your little brother, your mother, for their future. Time escape. Back in the mansion, after the guests left and the curtain fell, silence grew between you like a wall of thrones. You stood near the large window in your new bedroom, staring into the night as if expecting it to answer his fury. You quietly fold your scarf, unsure if you should speak first. He beat you to it. Let's set some rules, he said, voice sharp. Don't enter my room without knocking. I never expected a fairy tale, Mr. Kim. You replied softly, just honestly. He turned slowly, eyes narrowing. Then there is honesty, he snapped. I married you to make your father pay. I don't care what you feel. You are just a power in war. He stared. Your breath catch. I didn't, you began, but he walked past you without a second glance, slamming the bedroom door shut behind him. Later that night, you sat alone on the edge of the massive bedroom in a room that didn't feel like yours, wrapping in silence. From the hallway, you could hear distant voice, Mrs. Kim laughing with her friend on the phone. She's not even pretty enough, you heard her say, but maybe she will give us a grandchild. That's all that mattered. Tears pricking your eyes, but you held them back. You wasn't going to cry. You wasn't going to run. You didn't destroy his empire, but maybe, just maybe, you survived this. His storm. The day that followed were painted in quiet humility. You walked the hall of Kim Mansion like a ghost, present yet unseen. The star glow respectfully, but their eyes flicking with a sympathy. You could hear whisper behind closed door. You wasn't his wife. You were his revenge, and everyone knew it. Tim didn't come home most night. When he did, he avoided your dress, speaking only when necessary and never with kindness. But you remained calm. You smiled at the staff. You brought fresh flowers to living room every morning. You greeted Mrs. Kim politely despite her stubborn jabs. Don't overstep, dear, she said over breakfast one day, sipping her black coffee. Just because you are wearing his ring doesn't mean you are part of this family. You offer a polite note. Of course, mother. She flinched at word mother like it offended her. Time escape. One evening, Taeyong returned home dressed in rain. His black shirt clinging to him his torso. You rushed forward intensely. There is a tower. Don't touch me, he groaned, eyes grating like a force. You froze mid-step. I am not your concern. One, stay in your lane. You step back. You are soaking wet. I just save your fake concern. I have seen enough life from your family. He walked away without another word, leaving behind drugs and heart that shattered just a little more. Park Jimin visit a few days later, charming observant, the only person who looked at you in eyes with genuine worth. You is still been unsure. Isn't he? He asked, leaning on the couch counter as you pour tea. You blinked stare. You shouldn't speak like that. He grinned. Don't worry, he's too emotional, constipated to notice, but you are trying, ain't you? You notice slowly, because I didn't do anything wrong. Jimmy watched you closely, his tone softening his heart, vibrating by betrayal. Before he left, he looked over his shoulder. Keep being you. The only thing that I will reach him. Time escape. One evening, Taeyong took you to a formal business event. You thought it was a step forward until he introduced you like a stranger. This is wine, he said quietly. My wife on paper. You stood beside him in your red silk gown, humiliated. Vesperinos, poor girl, just a pop. Isn't the man who was company over collapse? You clench your feet, spine tightly, you endure the whisper judgment, his cold shoulder, but then she appeared, Kang Han, tall, elegant, beautiful, with a